My name's Sally Ashworth. I'm head of media for Harvard Business Review Press here in the UK. And today I'm delighted to welcome Professor Stu Friedman and Wafaa Amal. Stu has been an organization psychologist at Wharton, the business school of the University of Pennsylvania, since 1984, and he launched Total Leadership, a management consulting company, in 2000. In 2008, the book Total Leadership was proudly published by Harvard Business Review Press. It's since been translated into 10 languages and sold at more than 100,000 copies. Stu's work as a teacher, researcher, and advocate has won him multiple awards. There's limited time here, so I'll just mention that in 2015, Thinkers 50 named him the world's #1 thinker in the field of talent. And in 2023, he was inducted into their Hall of Fame. And Working Mother cited Stu as among America's most influential men who have made life better for working parents. Wafaa Amal is Director of Client Services at Total Leadership, based in France. After a degree in IT engineering and a first career culminating in a directorship at MasterCard, Wafaa undertook an MBA at ESCP, where she was inspired by the Total Leadership program. Her mission now is to help people elevate their lives and unleash their full potential. So we're going to hear today about what Total Leadership is all about, what continues to make this approach to working life so powerful for individuals and for organizations. And just quickly to go through our agenda, we'll be online for an hour. Stu will talk us through the thinking behind Total Leadership and share some tools that you can leave this session with and use right away. Wafaa will then join to talk about her on-the-ground work teaching Total Leadership. And the conversation will then go on so that you can put your questions directly to Stu and to Wafaa. Please type your questions into the Q&A box and share your comments in the chat as you're doing already, which is great. This is especially important today. We've got a very big audience here, and I want to make sure that I capture all the questions that you want me to put to Stu and Wafaa. So make sure you put those questions into the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Our colleague John is on hand for any technical support. Chat in if you need his help. And we're recording this session, and we'll share a link by email afterwards. Okay, that is everything from me. Stu, great to turn it over to you now.
Thanks so much, Sal, and thanks everyone for tuning in. We very much appreciate your attention in this hour and hope to make it a rich and useful time for you. We are humbled by the global scope of the people who are on this call right now, and hope that you find it relevant and useful in your own part of this amazing world that we are all so fortunate to be dancing on in these crazy days. I want to share with you some of the background and some of the main ideas of this approach, Total Leadership. It's very difficult to do that in the space of 30 minutes or so and allow time for us to have a Q&A. But I will do my best. There's lots more information available at totalleadership.org, including other videos and written materials, free chapters from our books, where you can find out more. Today, I want to just explore with you and engage with you in the consideration of the idea of what it means for you to lead with impact, not just at work, but in all the different parts of your life that matter. And when I say leadership, I mean not executive authority at the top of a organizational pyramid or hierarchy necessarily, but rather what it means for you to mobilize people toward valued goals, no matter what your role, no matter which domain or part of life you're in. So it's about being able to envision a values-driven picture of tomorrow, a better tomorrow, and to bring others along with you. So the idea of leading with impact in all the different domains is a primary one that I hope to perhaps change your thinking about. We'll do a very brief assessment. I'm going to ask you to take a snapshot of how the 4 domains of work, home, community, and your private self, your mind, body, and spirit, what those look like today in terms of their importance to you, where you focus your attention, and how well things are going for you in the different parts to help make these ideas immediately relevant to your own experience. And then I'll say some things about what it means to pursue what I call four-way wins. And that is demonstrably improved performance at work and at home and in the community and for yourself personally. Note, there is no or in that statement. It is and. And that is because a driving concept here is that it is possible to have greater impact across all four domains without having to make all the trade-offs that you currently have in your world. Now, you might be skeptical about this, and I understand that. But all I ask here is that you remain curious and have an open mind about how this approach might work for you. And my hope is that you will generate an idea or two or three that you can use, a new idea for you to apply in your world now that would help you to enhance your capacity to have an impact as a leader in the different parts of your life in a way that is sustainable for your life, because it works not just for your home, not just for your community, your friends, neighbors, social groups, not just for your personal life, your mind, body, and spirit, your mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual growth, and not just for your work life, but for all the different parts. So that is where we're headed. I hope that you find this to be the right agenda. If you want to say in the chat whether or not this is making sense to you and that we are in the right place, and that if you have any other questions you want to ask, put them in the chat, put them, sorry, in the Q&A box, and we'll get to as many of those as possible. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question now, and here I would like you to respond with your thought in the chat. So please put your fingers on the keyboard and tell me in one word or two in English, what kind of leadership do we need now? I'm going to read in the chat. Well, thank you for, there we go. People are responding with holistic, empathic, human, trust, authenticity, collaboration, sensitive, trustworthy, supportive, sustainable. Keep going. This is useful, not just for me, but I hope for you too, to see how your friends and colleagues around the world think about the idea of leadership in our world today. Flexible, adaptive, which is a different world than the one that I grew up in. I grew up in the United States, in New York City, in the 1950s and 60s. Yes, I'm 72 years old. I know I look a lot younger. Please don't say anything more about that. But the world that I grew up in, and the world that you grew up in, most likely, is a really different one than the world that we are in today. The digital revolution, AI, the politics of today and how divisive they are, the changing role of men and women in society, the threats to our climate that on this world that we share. This has made for us a new world, and that requires a different way to think about leadership. So this is where we begin. I want to challenge you, encourage you to think about what leadership means to you. That's why we're here. This hour is for you. And I want to assert that because of the world that we're in now, that we are in together, that it's useful, imperative for us to think about leadership being about life, not just about work. So that it's the keynote. Our approach, which we call total leadership because it's about the whole, is a systematic and flexible approach for creating change that is indeed sustainable to improve your impact in all the different parts of your life. And whether you are right now in school, or whether you are in the middle of your career, or whether you are retired, it is possible for you to use these concepts and tools because they are universally applicable. You saw that the book is in a number of different languages, and there are other languages that I didn't show the book covers for at with the title slide, but it's in over a dozen languages around the world, and the way it's constructed is to be customized by you to fit your individual situation, to take these key concepts and to apply them to your world. So I'm going to do a very quick overview of what the concepts and tools are, illustrate one of them with you, and hope that you will find this to be of interest and want to learn more. Okay? All right. So this is really just a kind of summary of what the book is all about and what this approach is all about in our work with organizations, with individuals, in companies and organizations, nonprofits all over the world. First, we begin. So the initial couple of chapters is really all about why you would want to do something like this and invest time and attention in the development of your capacity as a leader. It might seem obvious, but I find it's always useful to ask that question when you begin a new learning journey, to ask yourself, why would I do this? Why is this important for me? So perhaps you want to keep that in mind right now. Why am I here? That'll help you get more value from the rest of our time together. Now, there are 3 principles that I'm going to describe to you: to be real, to act with authenticity by clarifying what matters most to you, that is, your values and your vision of the future. First and most important principle. The second is to be whole, to act with integrity as one whole, by recognizing and respecting the different parts of your life and, of course, the people in them. So that's the second principle. And the third is to be innovative, to act with creativity by continually experimenting with how things get done. And this comes to life in the idea of experiments designed to produce 4-way wins: improved performance and impact at work, at home, in the community, and for yourself. There are 9 different kinds of experiments that we've discovered that people do when you ask them, go and do something new that you expect will have a positive impact on the different parts of your life. And I will describe a couple of them and encourage you to find out more about the different kinds of experiments that people have done. And there are many, many, many different kinds. The key is for you as a leader in your life to be continually innovating in how you get things done and to inspire others to do the same. Now, these ideas, I didn't just make them up. They're based on extensive research that we did in the 1990s at the Wharton School, in organizations, global organizations, some domestic organizations, different kinds of organizations, where we went into the field to discover, by looking at real people's lives, what does it take for people to grow as leaders and to find a bit more harmony among the different parts. A little less conflict, a bit more peace. And that is what so many people are telling me and telling Wafaa and our colleagues and each other, that we are seeking greater peace and harmony in ourselves, in our world. And this is a model that is intended to help you to do that, beginning with what it means for you to be real. So after the introduction, the second and third chapters dig into this concept of what it means to be real. And a number of you pointed in your notes about what kind of leadership is needed now to the very things that the exercises, the very practical exercises that are described and illustrated in the first couple of chapters, what they get at. So what are they? One important exercise is one that asks you to reflect on your history, your life history, and to curate that history in the sense of choosing from all the things that have happened to you, what are the 3 or 4 episodes in your life history that changed you, that shaped you, that made you into the person you are with respect to what you believe in, what you care most about. That's the first part of your leadership story. And it's not easy to do. It requires reflection, courage to look inside yourself, and to make sense of your history, and to write about that. Again, there's guidance and examples of how to do this in the first couple of chapters. Because people want to know from you where you have come from. That's how we build trust. That's how we help other people understand why we do what we do and why we are pursuing the things that we are pursuing. So it starts with your story, where you've come from. We then ask you to describe your future, your leadership vision, which we define as a compelling image of an achievable future. And the way we go about this is to ask you to describe a day in your life 15 years from now. So, and to write a page or so describing what happens on that day. We have found, and research has shown, that this is a very powerful way to bring to life your vision, your compelling image of an achievable future. It moves you, you can see it, it's out there in the future, and it's within your reach, even if it's far out, but too far out to make an action plan for, rather to have a picture of the future that inspires you. It's the life you want to be leading. And you want other people to know what that life is and how they are a part of it. So articulating your leadership vision is to describe that day. What happens in the morning when you wake up? Who are you with? What are you doing? Why? In the afternoon, what are you doing on that day? With whom are you doing it? And why? What's the impact that you're having? In the evening, what are you doing? With whom? And why? I hope you try this exercise because it will help you to see. It's another window, it's a practical exercise for how to uncover what really matters to you, which is the foundation for any growth in your leadership capacity and for your ability to find a bit more harmony and peace in your world, because you have to know what matters most to be able to choose intelligently, wisely, mindfully, intentionally where to devote your attention, your resources, your talents, your particular gifts. Another exercise is the one that we call the 4-way view. And I'm going to ask you to do that shortly. So hang on. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. First, let me describe what happens in the second phase of this work. Again, described and illustrated in the center part of the book, the second principle, to be whole, to act with integrity. And this comes to life in the very practical exercise of you're identifying who matters most to you at work, at home, in your family, however you define that, in your community, however you define that. Who are the most important people? So think about this. If I were to challenge you as I am now, who are the most important people at work, at home, and in the community? Let's say that the 3 or 4 or 5 most important individuals or groups in each domain, each part of your life, work, home, community. What these exercises ask you to do is then to explain to yourself first, why are these people important to me? How do they fit with my values and vision? Okay, this is a first major question that looks at the question of fit or compatibility or harmony. You're diagnosing your real world. You're seeing it in a way that is more systematic and clear. Who matters to my future, to my present and my future? So that's the first question. Why do these people matter? Not who I should be connected to and care about, but who do I want and need in my world? And then to specify for each of these stakeholders, what do they really need from me? What do I need from them? And when you go through that exercise and identify your mutual needs and expectations, and then look at the set of, let's say, the 10 or 12 most important people in your inner circle, you then are asked a set of questions. And again, these are all illustrated with examples of other people that have done this, people like you, people not like you. How do these different people in my life, how do they interact through me with each other? Where is their conflict? Where is their compatibility? How is what my mother expects of me consistent with what my clients and students expect of me, and what my friends and neighbors and political groups expect of me, and what I want and expect for myself? In what ways are they compatible, and where is their conflict? All of this analysis helps you to bring to light new ideas about what you can change, which is what we're getting to. The very heart of the book, though, because leadership, after all, is about relationships, is helping you to prepare for and undertake dialogues with some of these key stakeholders and practice your skill, which you can never be too good at, of how you connect with people in a meaningful way through dialogue, through conversation. And it takes you through a method, a proven method for how to connect with people to build trust and enhance the support that you feel from other people, where you engage in conversation with some of your stakeholders to share with them, here's what I think is important to you. I thought about it. You matter to me. I want to strengthen our relationship and our working alliance, whatever it is, friends, family, work colleagues. A few conversations with people in each of the different domains in a concentrated period of time will open your mind to seeing in new ways how the different pieces fit together. And so here's what I think is important to you. Do I have it right? What am I missing? And what typically happens in that conversation, if it's approached this way, with openness and interest and curiosity and fearlessness, unafraid to see the truth of what people need from you, which is a hard thing to do and takes practice to become comfortable doing that, because you might hear things you don't want to hear, but you need to hear. So how do you make it easy for people to tell you the truth about what they need from you and what you need from them? Well, you invite them by saying, here's what I think is important to you. What am I missing? What have I missed? What have I gotten wrong? Because I can't know the whole truth. So tell me. What typically happens in those conversations is that other people, you discover, expect less of you than you think. I'll say that again. When you talk to your most important people about what you need and expect from each other in a systematic way, what you are likely to find, not always, but what you are likely to find is what other people expect of you is a little less than and a little different than what you had thought. And that, of course, makes you much smarter about how to navigate the social world that you are in every single day. All right, let me say a little bit about the really fun part which is to be innovative, to act with creativity by experimenting with how things get done. So the third thing that we found that is consistent with people who are good at this, at growing their leadership capacity and finding harmony in the different parts of their lives, is that they are experimenting all the time. And we asked the first 1,000 people that went through this program many years ago to describe their ideas for experiments and to do them. And we classified them into 9 different kinds of experiments, which in chapter 6, they're all described and illustrated. What do people do? Well, for one thing, most commonly, in fact, people decide to take care of themselves better, to restore and rejuvenate themselves by taking care of their bodies, their minds, their hearts, their spirits, and to expect then that through ripple effects or indirect impact, by taking care of myself better, I'm going to be better at work, better at home, better in the community. Or another kind of experiment is to focus and concentrate in a new way, to experiment with how you use boundaries of time and place to be able to focus and concentrate on one thing or one person or one project at a time, and see what you discover about how that helps you improve your performance. And the idea is to set up a small experiment that you can do that helps you to move down the path toward your vision in a way that you haven't done before, and to see what you learn from that experiment by reflecting on what worked and what didn't over the course of just a few weeks. So you can start on an experiment now and then look to see what happens when you try this new thing and assess, am I making progress on my goal for improving my performance at work and at home and in the community and for myself? And to discover from the experiment, which is just time limited, let's just try this. You might say to your boss or your spouse or your friends, I want to try this. Maybe I'm delegating in a new way. Maybe I'm sharing more of myself in a new way. Maybe I'm appreciating relationships that I've got by doing community service together, or something that is meaningful to the different parts of my life in one action. What do I learn from trying that about what it means for me as a leader in my life to create change that is indeed sustainable because it works for all the different parts? All right. Let's bring some of this a little bit more to life with you. Very briefly, I'm going to ask you now, you can take a piece of paper or just jot this down, write it down anywhere, to take the 4-way view. Okay? This is private. This is just for you. Think about the 4 domains: work, home, community, and self. These are 4 buckets that we find to be useful universally, although they are subjectively defined by you. Take 100 points and allocate them to the different parts of your life. So in terms of how important these different parts of your life are to you right now. If they're all equally important, it would be 25, 25, 25, 25. If your boss is sitting next to you, it's 100, 0, 0, 0. Just kidding. Whatever it is, this is just a tool to help you to see things a little differently. Next column, think about a typical week or a typical month, if there is such a thing for you. And in your waking hours, where do you focus your attention? Where is your mind? Your most precious asset as a leader is your attention. Where do you put it? Where do you choose to put it? So take another 100 points and allocate them according to where your mind is when you're awake in a typical week or month. Then in the third column, identify your own subjective sense of satisfaction or well-being. How are things going for you at work, at home, in the community, and for yourself? On a scale of 1, you're not at all satisfied, to 10, completely satisfied. And then finally, in the last column, imagine if I were to ask your stakeholders, your most important people in the different parts of your life, how well you are doing in meeting their expectations. What would they tell me on average poor or excellent, or somewhere in between, and fill in that number there. And in the bottom right, that's your evaluation of how well you are doing, your self-evaluation in meeting your goals and expectations. Let me ask you to go to the chat and ask you to leave us a note with, what do you discover about the consequences of the choices you're making now in terms of the focus of your attention and what's important to you for your satisfaction and your performance at work, at home, in the community, and for yourself? What do you discover? Carlos, it does not look good. Okay, well, then you have work to do. This is, well, yes, Jar. And that, Elena, that's great to hear. Catastrophic, Klaus. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, the good news is there are things you can do. This is another tool that helps to open your mind to the possibility for innovation. And that's the point of it all, to take time to invest in yourself so that you can grow and have greater impact in the different parts of your life. And that's what we see when people look at what matters to them. They identify and talk to clarify what matters to the people who matter most to them, your people, because leadership is all about relationships and connecting with people and becoming better at that over time by practicing, and innovating, trying new ways. So what comes from this analysis about what you could do? The experiments are all about guiding you to help you to come up with an idea for something that you can try and then see what works so that you can get better and better and better. This model, after all, is about learning. And when people engage in this process, which usually takes a few months, because you have to have these conversations and do experiments and this self-analysis, and we usually do it in peer-to-peer coaching relationships, what happens is people start to see themselves a little differently. And they realize that sacrifice isn't always necessary. Sometimes, of course, it is. Of course, this is not this is not magic. There's no drugs involved here. This is not a cult. It's a systematic approach to changing the way you lead and the way you think about who you are as a leader. So people start to see where it's possible to have impact in all the different parts. And instead of missing opportunities to capture value from one part of life and bring it to the others, they find and use those opportunities. How, for example, by being a better friend, do you become a better performer at work? How, by being a better parent or child or sister or brother, do you become more whole in yourself and have a better impact in your work environment? These are the kinds of questions that people start to address in a systematic way, and they feel a greater sense of harmony as a result. So balance is the wrong metaphor. I hope you will stop thinking about balance in this way, like a scale, because that's impossible. No one has that. I have studied this for decades. I don't know anyone who is balanced. I do know people who are finding greater harmony among the different parts, and I prefer to think about the relationship among the four domains as a jazz quartet. Jazz music, if you don't know it, I hope you will learn more about it. But in a jazz quartet, you've got four instruments, and they are improvising on a theme, trying to create something beautiful, a sound that touches your soul, that is meaningful and harmonious. And each piece, each of those players, they're playing their own part. It's like the different domains of your life, but they're also improvising and very responsive to the other parts. They're not isolated. They're one. And sometimes a piece or two or three might rest and you only hear the piano or you only hear the trumpet. Rest is part of music. It's part of life. It's a better way to think about what the goal is here. And what we find is that when we ask people to describe themselves as leaders, we find that people tend to move from feeling unfocused and rootless to more purposeful. They feel more connected and more supported by the people around them and more optimistic and engaged about the future by taking this approach. I will close here. by just sharing with you. You did the four-way view just now. Well, we have studied this systematically with hundreds and hundreds, thousands of people. And in a recent study of about 700 business professionals from a wide variety of industries, we asked them at the beginning of our work together, and then 4 months later, after doing all these exercises, to once again take the four-way view. And here's what happened. So this is the averages from about 700 business professionals. You can see here that the importance of the different domains doesn't change. And you would expect that your values wouldn't change in the space of a few months. However, when we ask second about attention, where is your mind during your waking hours? You can see that the percentage of attention shifts away from work and to the other domains. That's right. That's what we are encouraging people to do. And yes, the Wharton School of Business is teaching people how to spend less time at work. That seems ironic, perhaps. Why do we do this? Because when we look at the delta or the change in the satisfaction rating from beginning to at the end of this process, we see that there is a percentage gain, pretty substantial, 21%, 27, 31, and in the self-domain, 39% gain in the well-being or satisfaction. The greatest gain is in the self-domain because it starts the lowest, and the gain is therefore the greatest on our measuring scale. But beyond that, we also ask people to assess how well they are doing in meeting the expectations of the people around them in the different parts of their lives, before and after. And what we find here is that to a lesser degree, but still positive number, is an improvement in the ability to perform well at work as well as at home and in the community and for yourself. So I want to ask you, before I turn it over to Wafaa and then you for questions, to go to the chat and offer your theory, assuming these data are valid and reliable, and I can share with you, and you can find out more about the study on our site. How would you explain the fact that performance in meeting expectations at work improves by 8% despite or because of a reallocation of attention away from work? That seems paradoxical, but it's true. How does that happen? Go to the chat. This is my signal to you to go to the chat. And well, that's it, Michelle. You're focusing on what matters. And yes, Elisaveta, you're better able to focus. And yes, Karenza, you're bringing more of your better self to the things that you do at work. It's not that complicated, but it is not easy to do and does require a systematic approach. All right. That's the point of it, to create sustainable change for improved performance in all the different parts, not just one. And the notion is to think about and to look for, by putting on a new set of lenses, four-way wins, demonstrably improved performance in the different parts. And these are the principles that I hope you will find useful to use. You can find out more about us at totalleadership.org or write to us at info@totalleadership.org. Now, we are in Europe. We're around the world. My colleagues, Carlos Casanueva and Gonzalo Landaluz, are in Spain. In Italy, Laura Barufaldi, who's with Bocconi, is our representative there. And in France, we have Wafaa Amal and Manu da Silva. I want to turn it over now to Wafaa to describe a bit about her work with us and its impact. Wafaa?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being with us. I'm happy to have you today with Stu on this webinar. So maybe a few words on how I joined the Total Leadership team. So my Total Leadership journey began during my executive MBA at ESCP, when I attended an elective led by Professor Carlos Casanueva, who leads Total Leadership in Spain, in Madrid. And at that time, I was just starting to recover from a severe burnout. And it happens that my burnout was a result of many and many years during which I had struggled to find the right balance between work and life. And I concluded eventually that in order to be successful in my career, I had to sacrifice everything else in my life. So anything would come after work, sports, family, even my personal health. And when I started to realize that I was a work alcoholic, thanks to this burnout, I started to kind of reviewing my way of living. And during that course in Madrid, Carlos said something that really, really changed my perspective. Similar to what Stu just said, that balance is unsustainable because it's not sustainable over time. We can have it at a moment, an instant, but not over time. And instead of that, to try to seek a new way of seeing things, a four-way winds that will help us to find opportunities and find harmony among all parts of our lives. And when Carlos said that, I just realized that I could have it all, which I thought always that it was impossible. But I can only have it all if I define what really, truly matters to me. And from that moment, a new word kind of opened up to me. And what happens also is that a lot of people around me, friends, family members, colleagues, were facing similar struggles, either sacrificing personal life for their work or vice versa, leading them to guilt and regret. And as a manager also, I was convinced that this mindset is negatively impacting organizations. So when this word of total leadership opened up to me, I just wanted to share it with as many people as possible. And in order to achieve that, I asked Professor Carlos to help me reach out to Professor Stu, who accepted to train me. And based on that, I knew also that I had to translate the Total Leadership book into French because that was a starting point. And I also knew that I wanted to share that with this adventure with a colleague who is Manu, based in France as well. So yeah, this is my story with Total Leadership, and I will be happy to answer any of your questions. So I will give it back to Sally for leading the questions.
Fantastic. Wafaa, thank you so much. And thanks, Stu, as well. I'm going to kick off with the first question that I have is, so the four-way winds approach feels more relevant now than ever. I'm working from home right now. The boundaries between the different domains of our life seem to be breaking down. I don't know whether you're feeling that it's becoming more resonant as time goes on. It feels like it's found its moment now even. Stu, maybe you want to kick this off.
Yeah, when I first invented this model, when I was the head of leadership development at Ford Motor Company in early 2000s, I was asked by the CEO of Ford to join the company for a few years to help revitalize the leadership development strategy and approach for the company worldwide. And it was there that we used what we'd been learning about leading with impact across the different parts of life. We were able to bring that to life for the people, the great people of Ford Motor Company in many different countries. It's a global enterprise. And so we designed a process that could work for anyone in any setting. Of course, cultures of the world are different, and they have different norms and values and expectations. But because the individual is the center of this approach, your values, your vision, your stakeholders, your opportunities for innovation in your world, it is possible for everyone to customize the approach to their world. And because of the changes that I briefly identified at the start in our world, it has become even more in demand, this approach, because with the digital revolution, boundaries are much, much harder to manage. for example, among and between the different parts of life, because of the sense of conflict that exists all around us, the quest for a greater sense of harmony in our world has become more pronounced because of the ways in which men and women's roles in society are evolving. The need to innovate in terms of how we organize our lives with people who are different from us and who are interacting and interdependent with us has become more pronounced. Because of the changes in how we think about our role in the world and in keeping it safe from climate destruction, it's become more important for us to think about leaders with impact beyond our work into the community and society. So these are some of the reasons why this approach is more timely now than in the past, although we see it as a kind of timeless approach to
Sure.
leadership growth.
Thank you. That really does answer the question, actually. Wafaa, I mean, your experiences, you've had total leadership as a program transform the way that you think about your life, and now you've moved to teaching it yourself. I have a question here from Alan about it's great as a self-development tool, but is it also about motivating people and helping the people that you lead to achieve their own goals and achieve total leadership in their own domains? Is there anything that you can kind of expand on with that perspective?
Yes, definitely. And motivation doesn't come only from the direct impact on the domain that the goal is a part of. Like, for example, if we have a goal of a great career, why is it important? For whom? Who will be impacted by our own great career, for example? And when we link one objective or one goal to different impacts or different wins in the different areas of our lives, it gives us a kind of an additional momentum that will really multiply the motivation and the willingness to pursue that goal. So I think the impact of the four-way view on motivation is also very accurate from that point of view.
I would add that
Sure.
when you take up the approach, let's say you are a leader in your department or you're part of an organization or some part of your community, when you take up this approach and you let other people know what you're doing, that your intention is to try to create positive change that's good for you and for them. So with the experiments, when you enlist other people, and you have in mind the specific goal of making life better for other people as well as for yourself, and you want them to do the same thing in their world, when you teach them how to do it, well, they're going to feel better about you.
Sure.
They're going to be more engaged with your goals and your aspirations. They're going to feel greater trust in you because you care about them as a human being. And people in many organizational settings around the world are really hungry for that kind of feeling.
Thank you. Ewan has a very practical and helpful kind of question here. Are there any set piece next steps that you take with common imbalances between the different domains? For example, at one moment, maybe work has a high importance, but it's not the focus of attention right now due to low motivation or whatever. Are there ways in which, I will stop there. Can you respond to that? Stu?
Okay, I'll start. The most common kind of experiment, and we've studied thousands and thousands of them, is the one we call restoring and rejuvenating, where you decide after doing an analysis of what matters to you and what the people around you need from you, what you discover is that what people around you need from you is for you to be healthy, for you to be strong, for you to be capable. And that results very often in people deciding to do something to take care of themselves through exercise, diet, meditation, reading, going for walks, bathing in nature, simple things like that. However, this is not just a yoga class. This is a leadership and performance and results class. So the approach here has to be, by taking care of yourself, how will that result in better results for you at work that other people can see and value? How will it help you in your family? How will it help you in your community with your friends, neighbors, etc.? So that is the leadership challenge, is to shift your thinking about pursuing change that's good not just for you, but for your world. And when you take that approach, you are less likely to feel guilty about taking care of yourself because you're doing it not just for you, you're doing it for us. And of course, you have to believe that. And you're less likely to feel afraid of trying something new that is good for you because other people are going to support you because they see it as good for them. So that is, I think, the most common sort of imbalance. People don't take care of themselves and they burn out, just like Wafaa.
And I can relate to that, because I've seen a question as asking what are the steps that I've been taking to recover from my burnout and change my perspective. And what happened to me when I took the Total Leadership Program for the first time was exactly that. When I did my dialogue, talking to all important people in all areas of my life, work, family, and personal work, family, and community. The first common expectations from 8 people that I've been talking to was that I would take more care of myself and my health. So it created a shift in my mind, because for me, taking care of myself was kind of selfish, and it became selfless thanks to this dialogue, because friends were telling me, when you were feeling bad, we felt bad because we see you as someone important. So I had to really shift my mind and take time for me. And as Stu just said, shift my mindset on, okay, taking time for me will help me be a better leader, better friend, better daughter, etc., etc. And when I took 1 hour to go for sports, which I never did in 10 times because work was more important, well, after this 1 hour of work, I had more interesting ideas for work. I could find solutions that I didn't see, because there is also scientific proofs that moving out and working out will help the blood to circulate in the body and also in the brain, which help to see things that we don't see if we just stay in front of a laptop, for example. And this is just one example. The mood is better, so I would be a better partner at home, and I would be a better daughter when I talk to my mom, because I'm more relaxed. So this is exactly what happened to me, and this is the way we need to think of the 4-way wins, and see how I could be, by being selfish, taking time for me, I would be a better person in all areas of my life and a better leader.
Wafaa, thank you so much. That's really powerful. Do Stu and Wafaa, I've got a few questions here, but you will be seeing others as I'm looking at them as well. So do pick out any that you see that that you can speak to. I had one here from Lenovo. I don't know whether that's somebody from the company or that's your name. Apologies if I have made a mistake, but they are saying total leadership is greater, it's important for your own self-development, but they were thinking in terms of talent acquisition. How do you, as somebody recruiting a new leader, know that you're making the right choice of leader? If we're regarding this as a very important way in which you approach leadership, how can you identify those leaders that have embraced this approach? Are there telltale signs of people who have, I'm reluctant to say balanced approach
Well, I can tell you,
to their leadership?
Sorry.
I'm done.
Is that it?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I find, I'll give you my take on this, and then Wafaa, if you want to elaborate. Many people that I've hired over the years, the most valuable question that I ask when I'm learning more about them is to ask how our work together, prospectively, how that would shape their future. What kind of impact would our work together have on their lives? And that gives me a window into how they think about work from the point of view of their whole lives. And if they are, if they are single-mindedly focused on work, and that's the only thing that matters to them, Well, that tells me something about who they are and what they're going to be like. And that can be, for some people, the only way that they can operate. That's the way they have to live. But I have found, and the research supports this, that if you have some variety in your life beyond work, you're likely to be more effective at work as well as be healthier and less of a healthcare risk to my company. So that's a question that I use in the talent acquisition process.
Wafaa, do you want to add to that? Or so we all always come to the back to the point of, so everything's fast and furious, everything moving. So how do you allocate time to really, even if you recognize this is important?
Wafaa, do you want to try that, or shall I?
Yeah, for me, I just remember what is and try to think of the impact that it would have for me, positive impact again in all areas of my life. So stepping back from work to do something else, how will it impact my leadership style at work and the effectiveness of my work? And this will push me to step back from the work and help me to visualize the positive impact it will have, even if it's not working for 1 hour, I know that I will be much, much more effective. And the other thing also that helps me is this obligation to lead by example. So I've seen also a question about how we bring this spirit and this mindset of total leadership within a team. So the first step, according to me, is really to lead by example and to show example into that. If we are a leader and we send emails at midnight and any hour that respects holidays and stuff like that, we're not showing the right example to our team members. So it starts by ourselves and how we show the example to others, and be careful on how we affect others' lives beyond work.
Fantastic. Well, sorry, Stu.
Well, I would just add that by clarifying your values and your vision and keeping that in mind and refreshing that on a regular basis and having that as your foundation, it is easier, especially if you are in regular connection and contact and learning all the time about what people really need from you, not what you think they need, but what they really need. You become smarter about the choices you make about where to invest your attention. So you become better at prioritizing. It just naturally occurs, and it becomes easier, and you become more confident in saying no to certain things that you might have otherwise thought were important. And that, of course, saves you time and frees up time for the things that are really important. So I try to start every day before I jump to my smartphone by just taking a minute to think about, all right, why am I here? I know that seems, it's kind of like a prayer, right? That's why the world's religions have people praying all the time, because we need the discipline of focusing on what matters most, because that helps us live in a more ethical and a smarter way.
This is a beautiful segue into so many things that have been discussed. Well, one of them that keeps coming up just quickly is authenticity. And the idea of having it front of mind what your values and vision are. Would that be the way in which you need to, how does the four-way wins and the total leadership approach fit with being an authentic leader, and how you think about that?
Well,
Sorry, I had an issue. I didn't hear the question.
let me take it. The question of authenticity is about knowing what matters and being able to give voice to that without being afraid. Having the courage to look inside, to help others to do the same. That's why we haven't talked much about the peer-to-peer coaching element of this. But when you're doing this work, which is hard, with other people, you discover that you're not the only one who is struggling, who is wrestling with these questions. Almost everyone is, from CEOs to shop floor employees, truck drivers, everyone has got this challenge. And when you realize that it's not just you and that other people are looking for creative, innovative ways to connect with who they are, it becomes easier for you to reveal yourself. This is what I care about. This is the world I'm trying to create, my values, my vision. And if you are focused on that, and no one is going to give that to you. I mean, if you're a teenager and you're listening, you might think that the world is going to give all those things to you. It's not. You have to make that happen. And that's what growing up is all about, is,
Fantastic.
knowing what you care about, discovering that, changing as the world changes, as you change, but being rooted in that and using that as the basis for who you act to become.
This is a fantastic place to end. Wafaa, I'm sorry, and if you had any comments, we have run out of time.
Okay.
Please look out for your emails after this session, because the recording of this session will be shared, and you'll be able to watch that again, share with other people. You'll also be able to connect directly with Stu and Wafaa if you've got other questions. There were lots here we didn't get to. And also there's so much more material on the Total Leadership website, which I will share with everybody after the session, along with the recording. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you very much. Thanks, Stu and Wafaa. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all.